Hello class, welcome back. There's a reason why I wanted to be outside because in part two, we are going to demonstrate muscle motions and I need some, well, space. So I chose a gazebo outside the medical center. Unfortunately, there was a hawk that was chirping overhead for the last video, so apologies. So I moved to a slightly different location. Hopefully this will be a little better. Have the AirPods in since I'm going to be a little bit farther away from the computer, so hope the sound works well for you. Let's get going. All right, so we are going to demonstrate different anatomic actions here. That's my AI drawing of a dude there. And we are going to start out with the spine. Cervical spine, lumbar spine, it all works. We're just going to use the cervical spine because it is easy to demonstrate. So I'm going to start from the side here. Flexing is bringing your cervical spine and your lumbar spine forward. Extension is the, well, complete opposite, going backwards. Fair enough, that's easy. Rotation, if you are, let me grab my, um, uh, there we go, laser pointer. If you're looking at someone from up top, you're just rotating left and right. Lateral bending or lateral flexion is side to side. So once again, for the mnemonics, flexion and extension is the yes motion, rotation is the no motion, and lateral flexion is the, the animal kind of, the motion that you're demonstrating with the spine. And that works for the lumbar spine too. Doing side to side motions would be lateral flexion. So moving on to the shoulder, this actually trips up a couple people sometimes since they don't quite follow the different motions, or at least what their mind's view of what the shoulder does is not what anatomists like in terms of shoulder motion, but we are going to try and demonstrate all these. Pictures are right there, but myself, I'm going to help demonstrate. So again, from the side, when we bring our shoulder forward, that is flexion. And when we bring our shoulder backwards, that is extension. The easy one to think about this is when you go bowling, right? When you are bringing your arm forward, that is flexion. When you're bringing your arm back to start the bowling motion, that is extension. And if you really want to be nitpicky about it, if my arm is coming forward out in front of me, even the process of starting to bring my arm back, this is actually the motion of extension. So if my arm is here, I'm already extending right now. Most people think of extension as the arm going back there, but if you start out here and I'm coming back to midline, this is already flexing the shoulder. Does that kind of make sense? So that's flexion and extension. Internal and external rotation, you have to think of what's happening at the humerus here when the humerus goes, well, this motion is internal and this motion is external. Some people, though, all they see is what the hand is doing, but what you're watching is what the humerus does right here. So humerus going in, that is internal rotation. Humerus going outward, that is external rotation. The other part that's tricky is if your arm is out to the side, now this is external rotation, this is internal rotation. Hopefully you can kind of see that. External, internal, when your arm is at the side, external, internal. Does that follow? It's the same motion as I am bringing my arm out into the side here. External, internal here is the same motion as external and internal here. It's tricky because most people are following the hand, but we're talking about what's happening at the shoulder. At the forearm is just kind of a lever motion. So there are some pictures that hopefully demonstrate that. Other motions, if we're out to the side, we bring our arms out this way and this way. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Another one that doesn't quite get talked about so much is where the shoulder blades move up and down. That's demonstrated on the pictures, but we have slides for it. So let's move on. Here we go. Abduction, the mnemonic for this one is you're being abducted by aliens as your arm is going up in the air and you're saying, well, goodbye to the world here as this dude is doing. And I love how the aliens are just kind of creeping up on him. I don't know, they should be in the spaceship. Oh, that's AI for you. So your arm getting abducted out, and then that's abduction. The opposite, bringing your arms back in, that is adduction or adduction instead of abduction. Adduction, ADD, adding to your body, adding mass to your body, bringing your arms back towards midline. This is abduction, this is adduction. Hopefully that helps. I had a couple different iterations of that, and I like how AI decided to put a jack-o'-lantern in and some briefcase here. I'm not sure. And this guy, I don't know why, that's not quite a backpack, but oh well. Next, scapular elevation and depression. I think this should be self-explanatory for most. You're elevating your shoulders like you're on an elevator or you're doing that. Oh, I don't know the answer to that question. And then the opposite would be depression, and just think of someone as depressed, right? When their shoulders go down, they're depressed, their shoulders are depressed. Elevation, depression. The opposite motion is this way: protraction, retraction. When you're pulling your shoulders back, basically when you're standing at attention, that is retraction. Protraction is bringing your arms, sorry, not your arms, your shoulders forward. So protraction, retraction. All right, next, the elbow. So the elbow is a little bit tricky. Most people, well, think of all these different motions as the elbow, but your elbow really only does one thing. It's a hinge joint. It goes into flexion and extension. That's all it does, right? When you are bringing your arm to bring a cup or a spoon to your face, you're flexing your elbow and extending your elbow. That's all your arm does. Excuse me, that's all your elbow does. The forearm right here does those other motions here. When you talk about what's called pronation and supination, when your arm going this way and this way, that is part of your forearm bones. We have the radius and the ulna, and they rotate on top of each other. That's what's making your hand move. The motion's coming from the forearm. The hand is just the lever. So your forearm does pronation and supination. The mnemonic on this one, think of a pro basketballer when they are dribbling the basketball, they have to pronate their hand to bring it down. Look at that crazy AI picture. I don't know why they thought of that. Then supination, the opposite, holding a bowl of soup. When you're supinating your hand and you have this kind of dreamy space-like soup, again, not sure where that came from, but I asked to come up with some original pictures, and that's what AI gave me. So pronation this way, supination this way. Pro basketball, holding a bowl of soup. Okay, moving on to the hand. Now, the hand is a little bit tricky here. The hand does a lot of different motions, and it depends on which finger we're talking about. So when we start with the main digits, not the thumb yet, just doing the digits, this is flexion, bringing your fingers down into a fist, and this is extension. Different motion than that is spreading your fingers apart and bringing them together. So spreading apart is abduction, abduction. Think of the shoulder when you're bringing your arms out and back in, your fingers out away from midline and back in towards midline. That is abduction, adduction. The thumb is kind of unique because the thumb has different motions. So when you think of your thumb, the fingers flex this way. The thumb is going to flex kind of across your thumb that way. So flexion is this way, extension is out this way, or another way to look at it, extension is the thumbs up, and then the flexion is bringing your thumb down. Now, when you hold your hand this way, you're extending your fingers here, but your thumb, if you're going to go in this direction, that's a different direction, right? Than we did flexion and extension. This is abduction or abduction of the thumb, and then this is adduction. So it's a little tricky if you hold your hand in different positions. Abduction, adduction, that's not flexion and extension. So flexion is bringing into a fist, extension is bringing out. So it's a little bit of a difference there. The other one that the thumb does, some people call it circumduction, where it's a circular motion, but opposition, where your thumb opposes the pinky here, that's opposition. And then when you bring your thumb back, that's reposition. This is why your thumb is very unique, and this is why we have what's called opposable thumbs, so we can do this motion, so we can grip a coffee cup or like a tree branch. So that is opposition of thumb. Now the hip is a little harder because I can't get my body leg into the picture here, so you'll just have to use your imagination and the pictures here. Abduction, same thing. Bringing your leg out to the side and bringing it back in is abduction and adduction. Flexion extension is just like the shoulder, same thing. So flexion of the shoulder, well, flexion of your leg, getting your leg up in the air to kick, and extension would be bringing your leg back behind you. Seems to be straightforward. Internal and external rotation, again, you just have to think of where your knee and your leg is as your leg is going back and forth this way and this way. That's actually internal and external rotation at the hip joint. The knee is just like the elbow. The knee just does one thing. The knee flexes and extends. Again, just imagine my knee. I can't get that in the screen. That's all your knee does. Pretty straightforward. Down to the ankle. Yes, the terminology changes, and sorry, but that's the way it is. So if you imagine this as my lower leg, and here's my foot, plantar flexion is pointing down towards the ground. Dorsiflexion is bringing your ankle up. So plantar flexion, think of pressing down on a plant, or pressing down or planting your foot on the gas pedal. Dorsiflexion is bringing your foot upwards. So the dorsum of your foot, bringing your foot up towards the dorsum, the dorsal surface. So dorsiflexion and plantar flexion, A little bit different, but hopefully it'll make sense. Just think of planting your foot down, plantar flexion. There is other motion that is going to be ankle inversion and eversion. And in a way, this is sort of like your hand and the pronation and the supination. Your foot is going inward and outward, or inversion and going towards the exit, out eversion. You're going outside to the outside of the body. This way would be eversion. Most people sprain their ankle as an inversion sprain, if that helps, if you've ever done that, where your ankle rolled in like the picture there. That would be inversion. And that about wraps it up. But did we forget anything? Yeah, we did. There's one motion that's not really a specific motion, but if you think of your shoulder or your leg, if you keep your leg completely straight or your shoulder completely straight, and you just kind of wing and wrap around your arm or your leg, that is not specifically flexion extension, abduction, adduction, internal or external rotation. It is this roundabout motion called circumduction. So for example, in the shoulder, if you're just bringing your arm in large arm circles, that is circumduction. The leg, I can't bring my leg up, but imagine bringing your leg around and around like that. Perhaps maybe better remembered or demonstrated back in the days of, well, Street Fighter, that is Chun-Li's motion. That's circumduction. There you go. Okay, and that's it for the motions, but we still have one joint to go, and yeah, the TMJ, right? Your jaws. Think about your jaw motion. Your jaw does move, and it's called protrusion and retrusion. And just think from the side, when you stick out your jaw, that is protrusion, and then when you bring your jaw back in, that is retrusion. And that is it. We got a couple more videos on part 2 coming up very shortly.